If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Our guest today is Sarah Venamore. Sarah's been an all-round horse person, riding in dressage, show jumping and eventing. She's focused now on being a specialist coach in both dressage and vaulting, and she's a coach and coach educator. She's also the author of The Right Track, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the interview. How are you, Sarah?
I'm well, thank you, Glenys. How are you?
Great. Sarah, we normally start off with a favourite quote. Have you got one for us?
Yes, I do have one, not from a very famous person, from my son as I was about to ride out when he was 3 years old. I laugh every time I go out now. His words as I was riding away was, "Mum, don't forget to look forward, look up and ride forward." So, yes, we know it's a joke with students as we go in, where everyone's looking up and riding forward.
Obviously heard that before somewhere in the family, yeah.
Yes, I think it's been heard from consistent teaching.
Okay. All right. Sarah, tell us about how you started with horses.
I was one of the lucky people, I guess, that managed to fall into horse riding. My parents aren't horse riders. They're, in fact, terrified of horses. So I started riding when I was 17. A good friend of mine at school talked me into going trail riding with her at a local riding school, and just lucky enough that the riding school took me under their wing and taught me how to ride, and I followed that with uni, working with horses, and then Mum realised that I wasn't going to give up and sent me overseas for training with Molly Sivrite, which was very lucky. Okay.
Yes, because we get a lot of people that sort of start off either with a family with horses, they might start off young, but even so, 17, you know, it's a little late. It's a little later than probably a lot of our guests, but I suppose once you've done it and gone riding and just decided that's what you were going to do, you've obviously kept going along that path.
Yes, I'm probably a little driven, I guess. And I was lucky that my parents realised that I was serious and sent me to England for 3 years training. At that stage, the EA was a little bit up and running, but for a non-rider like me who didn't know anyone, I was probably better off going to England and just being immersed in their BHS workings because most of the riding schools had those up and running then. So I was very lucky in that sense to get all the good information right from the beginning.
And then when you did that study with horses, you pretty much went straight into horses from there?
Yes. After uni, I did horse husbandry at uni, and I worked in a racehorse just preparing thoroughbreds, which wasn't fantastic for where I was wanting to head, and Mum realised that and sent me overseas, and when I came back I managed to get a job at Dalton Park in Brisbane as the assistant manager there, so I landed on my feet pretty much straight away when I came home.
Good. Now, what about if people that you know you're teaching them now and they say that they want to work with horses, what do you think the core skills they need, the personality traits, what sort of things would you say would they need to get started?
I think the main thing is that they have to understand the hard work that's involved as well as the enjoyment, and they need to be probably driven. I'll be honest when I say I really try and encourage all my students to go to uni, and then if they're still interested to then come back into the industry, because it's quite difficult. It's not an easy way to make money. So I try and encourage them to go down another track. I haven't succeeded all the way around, and the riders that I haven't succeeded with are going fantastically, I'd have to say, in the industry.
So I suppose it's almost like you put it up as a barrier and say, no, don't work with horses, go to uni first. And they sort of say, no, I'm determined to work with horses. And then they do it and do a really good job with it. Is that right?
Yes, that's pretty much how it works. And, of course, the reason why that works is because they are driven and they're saying, no, you're not going to make me do what you're suggesting. I really want to do this. And it's that personality, I think, that pushes you through as a horse rider. Yep.
I think that's a good tip, to have that driven personality. Okay, what about, obviously Molly Sivrite, I think, helped you in the UK. Who else has helped you and influenced you in your career?
When I came back here, I spent a little bit of time at Burton Marion Hartog. That's where we started the vaulting. And they were very supportive of vaulting and pushing that through. But then I spent quite a lot of time in the Southern Highlands in New South Wales and worked originally with Janice Usherwood there, and then had a little bit of help with Sue Hearn. And then I've just moved around. I was in Armidale for a while, and now I'm at Leeton, and you're really just trying to get what help you can when you live out here and there's not an endless stream of coaches. So, I travel a little bit for my own coaching still, just to keep myself updated and working within the correct way of dressage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, what about horses that have influenced you? Have you got any standouts?
Honestly, I think they've all influenced me, and I think as a rider, hopefully that you would say you have learnt something from every horse, because I think they all have something to offer. You just have to hear them. I suppose my first warm blood was a real learning curve for me. He was quite strong in his personality, and I was probably not understanding as much as a rider about how warm bloods work. So that was a very steep learning curve. But I think, I enjoy riding all of them. They all have different traits, and they're all teaching me consistently about how to listen and take the information onto the next horse.
I'm just thinking, sort of working around the world in different schools. It's not just you're going into a yard where you've got one or two horses there. Schools where there's quite a few, so you'd have a lot of experience riding quite a few different horses. Yep. Yeah. All right. What do you think, and this is as a rider, as a coach, and a vaulting dressage coach, what do you think your proudest moment's been?
Yeah, I guess there's quite a few for me, just even personal achievements of getting the horse up to the next level. I guess you have quite a few horses in for training, and some people are, I guess they come to you saying, this is not fixable, we don't know what to do with it. And just even little achievements like that you can fix it and help them along their way. I certainly have a lot of proud student moments where they achieve personal best when they go out. Yeah, and there's so many, I suppose. And even our child, the fact that he's riding and doing a really good job for a child that doesn't get much coaching because I'm so busy coaching everybody else's children. Yeah, so that's a pretty proud moment too, that's still happening.
That's good. And during that time, I'm sure there's been some challenges. You want to tell us about any challenges that you've had, or your biggest challenge?
I think I probably haven't been as lucky as some of the other competitors. I think just as far as, I guess the good horses that come your way, sometimes it's you've worked it out yourself, other times it's pure luck, and I probably haven't had the best of the best. But, and then you just keep on pushing through. And I suppose financially as well. My parents certainly did a wonderful job sending me to a great school and university and overseas, but then you have to make your way in this horse industry that doesn't provide a lot of money as you work your way up. It's bare minimum. And I guess that was the ultimate challenge, is trying to win financially. And I've definitely had a little bit of help from parents, thankfully. Mm-hmm. But, I reckon that'd be the ultimate challenge.
Yeah. All right. Now, I want you to think about, because you teach dressage and you also teach vaulting. Is there a correlation between the two, or do you have like a set of riders that you teach dressage and a different set of riders or students that you teach vaulting?
Yes. It's a little bit different because I'm the state coach for New South Wales Pony Club for dressage, but they also do use me for vaulting. So when I'm going around, I'm actually teaching groups of children vaulting, and then groups of children also dressage, and sometimes they cross over. Mm-hmm. And I do find that really handy, because the terminology that we use for vaulting I can then take over to the dressage, because we're both working on body core strength. My current vaulting team, probably 3/4 of those I teach. 2 of them are non-riders, and the others don't do a lot of competitive riding.
Okay, so the 2 that are non-riders, are they, what other sport are they? They'd be fairly athletic anyway.
Yes, well, one of them was doing ballet. She is only 7, mind you. Mm-hmm. She's extremely good. And the other one's a 13-year-old boy, and he's very athletic, a swimmer, runner, everything. And he's just naturally, he did actually come to me for a riding lesson, and I mounted him up, just legged him up, and he flew miles above the saddle. So I suggested that he might like to be a vaulter, because he has a basic technique already. we haven't done many riding lessons yet, but he's definitely part of my vaulting team, and he's moved up the ranks very.
That's good. That's good. Now, what do you think then is the most common fault that you see in vaulting, and how do the students fix it?
I think that probably and this is a good thing, I think the nerves is one of the biggest things I see. And I say it's good because then I know that they're not going to push themselves into an accident. So I'm very happy to work with nervous vaulters. It's fantastic. I think aside from that, the body core strength, which is why a lot of riders are doing vaulting to improve their body core, because they're not understanding of how to do it themselves. And because vaulting includes quite a lot of strength training with your stretch, your flexibility, those combinations then carry on through to the riding. So we do quite a lot of body core training during our sessions, but they're also supposed to do some at home to improve themselves. You can definitely see the difference in children that are doing that and those that aren't.
If they're doing the homework, yeah. Okay, now
Yeah,
what about dressage? You know, the students that you teach dressage, what do you think is the more common fault, something that can be corrected, and how do we go about correcting it?
I actually believe that it's lack of faith in themselves, and I would go, that's quite common where I am living out here in the moment. So I don't know whether that's an out west thing, and the fact that there's not many coaches out here, I'm not really sure, but it's not a physical thing, it's definitely a mental thing. So I'm finding myself doing quite a bit of talking to them and encouraging them to believe in themselves and explain techniques that they're using so that we can work through them and say, yes, that's a good one, but maybe if you tried this, then it might work a little bit better.
Okay, that's
so,
good.
Yeah, definitely more mental than physical.
So you find yourself in quite a few different roles as a coach, not just the riding instructor, but that other support as well.
Definitely, yes. I think that's a very big thing. Because I teach ladies, so I run ladies camps out here. We do 3 days ladies camps, and a lot of that is the riding, but also their ability to understand that they are okay and they can work through spots that they feel like they can't work through normally when they're by themselves. And they're definitely, a lot of them are struggling with the mental strength of being able to push through this. But a lot of the ladies have had children that who have ridden, and those ladies are now coming back to riding themselves. So that's quite a long time where they haven't been able to work with them physically and mentally. So it's a big challenge to step into that. And we've had some major successes, some great fun with these ladies, realising that they can actually do these things. And because I have a big vaulting horse, we also did a little bit of vaulting last time too, which really pushed some boundaries. It was very exciting for all of them that they managed to do it.
That's good, isn't it? That's good. All right, now I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about your book and what it's for, who it's for, and the type of exercises and that are in it.
So I've been state coach for New South Wales Pony Club for about 20 years now, and the book came as an idea from me teaching the riders, because at the end of every session, some of them were saying, may I have some exercises? Could you just draw some out for me to take home and have some homework? So I was doing that. And the tricky bit with Pony Club is you have, certainly at junior regionals, at least 6 as a minimum, generally for Pony Club, riders in an arena at once. And you need to keep them moving all the time. They need to be interested. And so the joining together of giving these riders homework and realising that Pony Club coaches were struggling to keep the whole group going, safety-wise and fun-wise. So they would in 1 or 2 while the others would wait, and children were getting bored. So I've put together a book that had exercises that were capable of having 6, 8 riders moving around the arena all at once. So you didn't have to run the lesson like traffic control. You had a lesson plan in place, an activity, and the riders were working the exercise themselves, which allowed me, to then teach them and give them some information about how to improve the circle, how to improve the corner, how to improve their leg yield. So it is for group lessons, but it's also for individual riders, because I find a lot of riders go home and they get stuck on a 20-metre circle, or they go large, and the rider starts to fall flat. There's no concentration. They get lower and lower, fall on the forehand. Nothing improves. So when I was giving them exercises, they were keeping themselves interested and therefore keeping the horse interested, and then had a better ability to check if the horse was working correctly. So the book is written for individuals and for group lessons. So for instructors as well, but also for just the private rider that wants some more ideas, that doesn't know where to go to. So I actually have done 2 books. The first book has been, the rights have been sold to England, and it's also been translated into Spanish. It was just a basis to get going. And then the second book is a few basic ones as well. It's kind of separated into warm-up ideas and then ideas that are for straightness and lateral work and improving length and etc. So there's an index in the back that can show you the exercises that would work for whatever issue that you have.
Okay, good. Sarah, what are you looking forward to now? What does your future hold?
I actually have a new horse, which as of last year, which is great. So I haven't been able to compete. I still have my good horse here, but he's kind of turned into our vaulting horse because we had nothing else. So he's 17 two-hands and I lost my dressage horse. So I now have a 16 two-hand horse that will definitely not be vaulting. He's a bit too spooky, but he's a great dressage horse. So I'm hoping as of this year I can actually get out and start competing myself again. So I'm very excited. It's been quite a few years since that's been available to me.
Okay, that's great, Sarah. Now, Sarah, can you sum up your philosophy with horses into a lesson today for our listeners?
I guess the major thing that I try and instill is that you need to enjoy it. So if you're not enjoying it, it's time to get off and maybe pop the horse away and come back another day. Or if you have enough tools in your toolbox, then you should be able to work out why you're not enjoying it and help manoeuvre the horse so that the two of you can enjoy it again. I definitely say it's got to be fun. It has to be fun for both of you. And if you don't have enough tools, then ring me and I'll give you some more tools so that you can enjoy it.
Okay, then Sarah, how can people contact you?
Have a mobile. Would you like the number?
Yeah, please. Yeah, look, you can say those details, but they'll also be on our Horse Chats page, which will be horsechats.com/Sarah Venamore.
Fantastic. Okay, well, my number is 0417 419 229, and my website is www.equiste.com. So the books are available there, and I have a calendar there. So my ladies' club camps are up on the calendar, and I do children's camps, and it also tells you what weekends I'm around at what pony club in New South Wales. I'm starting to do vaulting clinics interstate as well, so it's got those details up as well. And I have an email address, which is just sarah@venamore.net.
Okay, very good, Sarah. And as I said, those details will be up on horsechats.com/Sarah Venamore. Okay. And Sarah, good to talk to you again. Interesting to see what you're doing and just the difference between the dressage and the vaulting and how you've mixed them together, and also how you started and got interested in vaulting as well. Okay, so I think it's a fairly new sport here, but it's certainly taking off, in the last couple of years.
Yes, it is. It's great fun, and all the vaulters that are into it are just absolutely loving it. We're competing quite a few times a year, so that's very exciting that can happen, and sending quite a lot of vaulters overseas now competitively, so that's Good. Very exciting.
Good. Okay, Sarah, thanks for talking to us today, and hopefully we'll catch up again with you sometime soon.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, before you go, if you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.